What's up, folks at home? Today we're going to talk about how I use the jig and my Omnia Fishing app to find bottom hard spots to catch bass right after ice out. So let's strap up, we'll see you out there. Alright guys, so let's go over how I use Omnia to find pre-spawn hotspots, right? And we're talking hard bottom areas. So on my base layer maps here on the Pro, I'm going to select social bottom hardness. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these lakes, and the redder the area, the harder it is. See all these red spots right here? Fish are going to load up on these in the pre-spawn. And by load up, I mean they're going to sit on these hard bottom areas in order for them to spawn. So anywhere that I can find this rock and hard bottom, I'm really going to focus on finding these areas, especially where they stick out, so that I can find. Now, in the early pre-spawn, I'm looking for areas just like this. There's a red hard splotch there, which is underwater rock or hard bottom, just like you see on the screen here. And it's connected to another vein of rock that's coming out off the bank. That is textbook pre-spawn, what I really am looking to find. So when I find those hard spots using mapping, I'm gonna pick up the jig. Now, the first jig that I pick up is going to be the Missle Baits Ike mini flip jig, the 1/2 ounce version, and I'm gonna throw a do nothing trailer on it. Here's a Big Bite Baits creature bait. And I like the do nothing trailer at this point because if I can find veins of rock like you're seeing right here on camera, I want to drag this bait along, and I don't want it to be super crazy, super action filled right now because the water's cold. As soon as the ice comes out, I'm looking for hard spots on the bottom, right? The jig gets the call because you can drag it through there. It hops along the bottom like a crawfish. If the moon is out and the moon is full, the crawfish are going to start molting as that water temps in the 40s and 50s. This can be a killer bite, especially if you're looking at smallmouth, especially if you're looking at clear water conditions. I like to throw it in this black with chartreuse on it here because I feel like it does a good job in aiding kind of that scent picture. The fish really aren't overblown too because these are the first lures they're really seeing doing this at this time of the year. I really enjoy finding bottom hard spots, hopping it through there, pausing it, and shaking it. Now, the second jig is the green pumpkin jig, and this time I'm throwing that Z-Man Crawz bait on there. And this is a 1/2 ounce jig, but it's a mini flip, so it's downsized. This bait is an absolute killer. The clearer the water, the more natural I want the crawfish to look. This is pretty much a natural crawfish profile right here. Those nice Z-Man Elastec bait and pinchers stand up nicely on the bottom, as you can see there, and do a great job imitating that crayfish. But the jig, honestly, you can't say enough about it this time of the year. It honestly gets bit really well, and this is something that you can do when the water is 30 degrees or 40 degrees or 50 degrees. Those fish are going to sit on those hard spots and those hard bottom areas, just like you're seeing here, until it's time for them to spawn. And they're going to move from point to point to point. In northern natural lakes, one thing that you can rely on are those hard bottom spots. Now, these are a lot of spots that guys run into by accident. They're not looking for them, but they start catching fish and they wonder why. There's a lot of man-made structure in hard bottom too that fish are going to sit on, like you see in that underwater video right here. But if the water is a little bit off, I go to the black and blue mini flip jig, and I like the Chigger Craw trailer on there. And this bait is just phenomenal. It comes through really good. The tungsten head on the mini flip jig translates that bottom really well. I throw these baits on 10 to 12 pound fluorocarbon. Now, that seems really light for a lot of guys. But remember, I'm fishing northern natural grass lakes. I'm fishing a jig instead of a Ned rig. I'm fishing a jig instead of a drop shot. A lot of guys are going to throw a Ned rig on these spots and catch fish, but if I'm picking up a jig, I'm going to get a better than average bite, right? I'm looking for a better than average bite, and I've figured out that the jig this time of the year explodes your chances to catch a truly giant fish. And for whatever reason, the compact jig works better. You're not going to get as many bites as a Ned rig, but you're going to get the right bites. Right? I never leave a hard bottom area without throwing a jig across it 5 or 6 times from different angles. You're going to find the sweet spots. Now, there are different other options too. Here is the Dark Sleeper Craw from Megabass. This is a pure craw profile. It comes through rock really, really well. It's got those air pockets in the craws to make it stand up. It's a very versatile bait in what it's doing, and it really can get you bit in a lot of situations where they don't want the full jig presentation. Now, this is a 3/8 ounce bait. I can throw it a long ways through a lot of cover, and it will sit there just like you're seeing and look just like a real crawfish. One of the biggest draws here is that you're still getting that jig profile, but you're honestly getting a little bit slimmed down of a package in the Dark Sleeper Craw, and it's going to generate bites. It's going to generate the right kind of bites for you, and it's going to pick up fish that maybe you missed with the jig or missed with the Ned rig. It's great around boat docks. It's great around pieces of industrial cover that you see here. And the final, this one I have a hard time giving away, but a lot of northern natural lakes are dependent upon bluegill as forage. Now, here is the Megabass Dark Sleeper Gill. I consider this bait to be a swim bait and a jig. You can fish this bait just like a jig off the bottom, but you can also pick it up and swim it, right? It does fantastic in rock and cover. It's also a bigger profile than your regular Dark Sleeper. It's going to give you the ability to get bit on rock veins, especially in clear water. You can fish it just like a jig, drag it through all that cover, but it has that appeal of a swim bait as well. I really, really like the Dark Sleeper Bluegill because it gives you the chance to really, really, really exploit these hard bottom areas for everything that they are worth. All right, guys, after ice out, bottom hardness is super critical. You saw on the Omnia Fishing app how I find those hard spots that I'm gonna target before fish are really, really, really in that pre-spawn mood. They're in that late winter, early pre-spawn. Hey, the jig, especially the downsized jig on hard spots, is going to get you bit 9 times out of 10 on those kind of days. Hey folks, if you wanna do what we're doing, get on the Omnia Fishing app, buy that premium subscription. It does a lot of difference, even if you're on the boat, if you're on the bank, doesn't matter. It helps you pregame for a lot of lakes. It also helps you find baits that are prescribed for each lake that you're fishing. I fish Tippy Lake a lot. There's a bunch of stuff on Tippy Lake that I throw that I don't throw in other places. Get on that Omnia app, figure out what we're throwing. All of the links are in our description, guys. Throw those jigs, join Omnia, help us, give us a like, subscribe. We'll see you out there, folks at home.